I had a really productive week in the sewing room. I completed 4 garments this week, if you count one that was a work in progress, and I love 3 of them. One of them I'm just kind of meh about, and there were some lessons learned that I'd like to share with you. So I'm going to start off with what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Lodo dress by True Bias. I made this out of a viscose Ponte Roma. This viscose Ponte Roma was gifted to me by Minerva as part of the brand ambassador program, and I love it. It's a heavy Ponte, and I've never sewn with Ponte before, and it won't be my last time. I love the dress. I did make some tweaks from my muslin or my toile. I came down a size. I sewed it in a size 20, and I had a couple things that did not go smooth with this dress that were my issues, not the fabric and not the pattern. So the first one was distracted sewing. If you're a part of the community, I did a community post asking for a friend. Do you find that you can multitask and listen to things while you sew? Evidently, I can. I don't know why I keep trying. I sewed the facings to the sleeves on the wrong side. At first, I thought that it was just one sleeve, and that's what I reported in my post, but true confession, both were sewn to the wrong side. So I had to unpick them and recut those facings and sew them again. Not the end of the world, but I was really rocking my productivity, and I had a lot I wanted to sew. So silly mistakes, distracted sewing. I just can't do it. I don't do it well. The other issue was probably a tension issue. I sewed this heavy Ponte. First, I was using a size 80 stretch needle, and I was getting a lot of thread bunching up on the bobbin side of the fabric. Now, when you see thread nesting like that, it's usually not a bobbin issue. That might be the first reaction because it's on the side of the fabric where the bobbin thread is. It's usually in the top. So the first thing I did was change the needle because I knew better. I knew that I should be sewing with the size 90 stretch needle. I swapped out my needle and just did a quick rethread, and I was still having the nesting. Now there was a lot of unpicking involved, and it's a wonder this dress turned out as well as it did, as many times as I had to unpick. I rethreaded the machine, and I realized that it was where I was placing my big cone of Meriflex thread. I should have mentioned I used Meriflex thread with a 3.5 stitch length for most of this dress construction. Now I buy my big cone of thread from Wawac. It's less expensive to purchase it this way. I love using the Meriflex thread, but the cone doesn't fit on my machine. So what I need to do is place the cone behind my machine. I take the thread over the top of the machine, I lift up the lid, and then I just thread my machine per usual. And I realized that where I had placed my thread cone behind the machine wasn't in its usual place, and I just shifted it and started over right from the very beginning. And that's a lesson that I already know. When you rethread a machine, you don't just grab the thread from where it is in the machine and start threading. You cut your thread and you start all the way over from the beginning. Once I changed the placement of where that cone thread was, it worked beautifully. So I'm really happy with this dress. I like the fit. It is so easy to wear, and it's going to be perfect for going to celebrate Grandma Lois's birthday tonight when we go out for dinner. Before I finished this, I refitted my muslin, and let me show you that. So this is my Lodo dress, the first version, in this super cute French terry. That's what I purchased from Minerva. They still have a little bit left. I love this fabric. Every time I wear this, and I've worn it a lot, I get a compliment on the dress and people ask me, do you have one of those dogs or do you have a Frenchie? The answer is no. I just think this is super cute. So the dress was too wide. I had cut out and sewn a 22 and it just wasn't making me feel as fantastic as I could feel. So what I did was I turned it inside out. I pinned out the difference between a 22 and a 20, tried it on. It was like, yes, that's what I need. So I unpicked the hem and just serged off that inch on each side. And I love it. I've re-hemmed it. I've already worn it twice since I've made that fix. I've just been in a real Lodo mood lately. This is the perfect time of year to wear it. It is cooling off here, finally, and I'm gonna get a lot of wear out of both of these dresses. My most recent make is another one that I absolutely love, and I had a happy accident with this one. I made myself a new Jarrah sweater, and I used this gorgeous waffle knit that I purchased at 5/8 seams. And it has a lovely drape to it. I love the color. It's a little different from anything that I have in my wardrobe. My previous Jarrah sweaters needed to be retired, and I knew that I wanted to make a new one out of some good quality fabric. So the happy accident I had just came about from laziness. I didn't want to have to boot up my computer to look at the pattern instructions. Even though it had been a few years since I've made this pattern, I knew it was really easy to construct and I knew I could put it together. So I thought, without looking, I peeked on my pattern piece to see if I could see a seam allowance written, and I thought I saw a 1.5 seam allowance, which would be 5/8 seams. I decided I want a little company while I sewed this, and so I turned on a sew along for Sewing Bunny, Michelle, sewing the Jarrah sweater. And she stated pretty close to the opening of the video that she was going to sew it all on her overlocker because it was a 1/4 inch seam allowance and it would be perfect. Oh my goodness. I stopped. I went downstairs. I opened up my computer. I looked at the instructions and sure enough, 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I thought, well, I'm just going to move on ahead and sew that up. I'd already trimmed it away. Let's just sew everything else at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And that's where my happy accident comes in. Because I took this seam at 5/8 of an inch, it changed the neck opening a little bit and where the shoulder sits. And I love the look so much more than originally. I found when I wore the first 2 jars that I sewed that the wide round neck opening would limit what I could wear underneath because I'd sewn it out of a patterned fabric, that if I wore the wrong top underneath it, just looked weird because of the amount of the shirt or top that was underneath. And I found that a little bit limiting with this pattern. This one I love. Let me show you. Pop it on. I feel like this neck opening isn't showing my shirt as much, and I'm loving this. So all of my future Jarrahs, I think I'm going to do the 1.5 seam allowance here on the shoulders and everything else at a 1/4 inch. I love this. The only other thing I'll change is this is a size 18 And when I traced out the pattern the last time, I graded it out to a 20, and I think I'd bring that to an 18. But I'm loving this. Love this fabric. Love the color. I have an offcut. Let me show you what I have left. It's a pretty sizable chunk of fabric. A little bit weird shaped. You know how it is when it's left over from a sewing project. So I'm going to, if I have enough of this fabric, I'm going to sew our 3-year-old granddaughter a mini Jarrah for her in a size 4. That would fit her perfectly. If I don't have enough of this fabric to make the Jarrah for a baby girl, I have another little granddaughter who I think I could get a hot chocolate out of this for her. That's a Waves and Wild pattern. So now on to my sewing disappointment. The pattern, the dress that I spent the most time on is the one that I'm just feeling kind of about. So here is my Davenport. This was an absolute obsession for 3 or 4 years for me now, and I'm not excited about the outcome. It is beautifully sewn. I love the techniques and the finishings. I think a big part of that is this linen is really heavy, and it's just too heavy for the look of what I was going for. I really wanted to copy the version that is on the pattern cover. I fell in love with this pattern and I wanted it. Now lately, in the last year, I've become much more aware of what my sense of style is. Before I started this project, I was thinking, I don't know that this matches my style. I'm not much of the prairie cottagecore style. There are dresses that I appreciate and I can like, but I don't think that's for me. And that's why I termed this dress a true obsession, because I couldn't talk myself out of making the dress. I was obsessed. I needed to make this dress, and this linen was the only linen I had that was enough yardage to make the dress. So even though I knew this linen was probably a little too heavy for the dress, I had to make it. And this was quite the time commitment. There are a lot of pieces to this dress. I think about 28 pieces or so, and it took me 2 days to sew the dress. It was a lot longer to cut out than any other pattern I've sewn before, and I did take my time sewing it. One of the things I love about Friday Pattern Company patterns is they are enjoyable sews. I think it's some of the techniques that you use to make really nice finishes, like this sleeve. Let me show you. I love this sleeve, and I'm going to be using this on other makes. Look how neat that is. Let's see if I can get it, keep it from falling off my lap while I show you. So I have no complaints about the pattern, the finishing. It's more me, as in, I don't know that this is my style. And also, I wish you could feel how heavy this dress is. I've already tried to sell it to my sister with, hey, I think this would look great on you. Would you like this dress that I just finished? And her response was, I think it's really pretty, but it's really not my style. And I learned that it's okay to step away from something that you loved, that you felt passionate about, and that you're even obsessed over, the way that I obsessed over this dress. I could have used that time to sew an involved make. I have several other Friday Pattern Company patterns that I haven't sewn yet. I could have made another one and something that I would have been happier wearing. So I should have stopped and listened to myself, listened to that inner voice that said, I don't think you really want to make that dress anymore, and I don't think it's going to fit your style. I'm happy with how it turned out. These very long ties, I used a method that I did a little tutorial on. I'll link it up here for sewing a neat tie. This fabric frayed like nobody's business, and I was able to quickly make a tie without having to turn that long loop. I don't have the patience for that. I think I'd still be working on the dress if I had to turn that long loop. So I've got this very heavy linen dress. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I might try styling it up with boots, and it would be cozy to wear on a winter day. It's just not me, and I kind of wish I would have spent my time making something else that I would know I would get a lot of wear out of. It's funny, these quick, easy makes brought me so much joy, and I want joy, and I want clothes that I'm gonna wear. Charlotte Frock Tales is this coming weekend. I'm very excited, and we'll be bringing you along for part of the journey. I am definitely going to be packing or wearing one of my Lodo dresses. The Maya Sotis dress that was my Easter dress will be what I'll wear for Frock Tales. Think I'm going to bring this with a pair of jeans, and I still have some more time to sew something else. Maybe something for brunch. I feel so much more energized than I have in the last month or so. I'm excited to sew. What about you? And I'll see you soon.